Hitman, directed by Richard Linklater, stars Glen Powell and Adria Arjona. The film centers around professional killer Gary Johnson, who breaks protocol to help a desperate woman trying to flee an abusive husband and finds himself falling for her. I've been pretty excited to check this film out since talks about it first started going around, and seeing it being a collaboration between the rising star that is Glen Powell with acclaimed filmmaker Richard Linklater. Another reason I wanted to check it out was I thought the concept of this film felt very unique, and if you've seen my other reviews, you'd know I'm a fan of original movies, and I'm pretty excited to talk about this one. Firstly, right out the gate, I'm confident in saying this is a career-defining film for Glen Powell. I understand he was great in Top Gun Maverick, but I think this film proves the star power he holds. He has to balance so much with this performance that, surprisingly to me, is loosely based on a real guy that actually did all this stuff back in the 70s, I believe the credits say. I love all of the different personas he goes into, and while they have brief moments of screen time each, they all feel like their own individual character, and you can tell there was time put into making all these different personas feel authentic when they're on screen, which not only is down to Glen Powell's doing different accents and different mannerisms, but it's all down to the costume design. Sure, a lot of them at first glance look pretty goofy, but what makes the character not only believable in context of the film, but to the audience watching as well. And I thought it was great seeing how Glen Powell was able to juggle all of this while maintaining his main character. It was really entertaining to watch. His humorous side really comes out in this film, and he has some pretty great moments. I haven't seen Anyone But You, but I imagine his comedy chops are better in this film than they are there. It's weird how he's only really getting his moment to shine now in the past few years, as when you watch how charismatic he is, you can tell he has always meant to be a movie star, and I'm glad this is another film from his that further proves that. Adria Arjona was pretty great here too, again balancing two sides of a character, but instead of it being multiple like Glen Powell, her balance is more internal, as we see her character at the start seeming to be a sweet person and lost in the world, but as the movie goes on and when she comes out of her shell, there's hints of her being almost manipulative to a degree, mostly to where audiences could possibly relate to knowing someone like this that have either been in their lives before or currently are still in their lives. She's great at conveying the sense of not being trustworthy once we get to the second half of the film, and that doesn't stop until at least the epilogue of the film. Her chemistry with Glen Powell was really great to see as well, and the way their romance is written throughout the film flows really naturally, and that's really cool to see here as well. Obviously, like I said, I thought the story for this film as a concept is really unique and interesting, and it is. It takes some tropes that we've seen before, like someone in the police force going undercover, but the way this film is written makes it feel fresh in a way. However, for all the strengths of this story, there are some aspects that aren't as strong. For example, there are a couple of moments where there are a few predictable moments in the film, which isn't always a bad thing, especially when it's written in a way that doesn't make the audience feel dumb when certain things are revealed, but it's still interesting to see. Naturally, with the concept of Glen Powell's character revolving around a guy who goes into different personas, there's going to be the obvious plot point of the story leaning into a liar reveal subplot, and this type of subplot is rarely done well. While it's not executed poorly here as it fits the context of the story, it was still a little disappointing to see in this film. Another aspect of the story I really liked was the connection between the two worlds in which Glen Powell's character is in. His main job is being a teacher, and the whole fake hitman thing is something he does on the side. When we cut between his scenes of being a teacher, many of the things he's teaching about is themes of identity, which is easily tied into the work he undergoes as a fake hitman, and granted this is a standard writing thing, I still appreciated this aspect. However, I'll say this as more of a warning, I didn't find this a strength or a weakness for the film, but for a movie called Hitman, there's actually little to no violence in this. The film is very much more character driven than anything. It could have been easy to have a segment in this film where Glen Powell's character gets roped into killing someone by means of a comedic circumstance, but it never goes there. We mostly just get to see the darker side of humanity through many conversations in the early half of this film, and I think that alone is just as interesting to see. Overall, I had a really good time with this film. I thought the performances was great, written really well to an almost semi-subversive degree, but not to a degree where it's new or anything like that. It's surprisingly very feel-good, especially with the romance aspect, which is something Linklater is very good at conveying when he writes that in his movies. Deep down, there's probably the juvenile part of my brain that would have liked to see a turn in this film where the violence comes. However, the mature side of my brain absolutely ate up just how character driven it was instead. I'm giving Hitman 4 stars. Not only is it an original film with a great concept, but it's such a fun time to see this strong synergy between co-stars, and while there are aspects of the story I personally felt brought it down a little, I don't think many people are going to complain about that. Some people might think it's slow, but if you go in knowing you're not exactly getting Fincher's The Killer, I can guarantee you'll be in for as much of a good time as I did watching it.